You're now watching the Vision Channel, where Habakkuk 2 and 2 says, write the vision and make it plain, so they that see it can take it and run with it. This is the channel where faith and vision collide. You're now watching the Vision Channel, where Habakkuk 2 and 2 says, write the vision and make it plain, so they that see it can take it and run with it. This is the channel where faith and vision collide to bring forth a manifestation. You're watching the Vision Channel.
Good afternoon. We thank you for tuning in. Now, tonight we're not probably going to be long, but tonight we desire to speak about something, and just please hear me. And I'm going to do my best to try to convey it and explain it tonight. You know, I believe that this has been one of the issues in marriage, period. That you start out on fire and then someone brings a fire extinguisher. And I think this has been the challenge for those that have been married. They don't know how to rekindle the flame that went out. And so, in essence, just say, for instance, if you have a gas stove, if that pilot goes out, you're never going to get that fire. You're going to need something that will bring a spark that will ignite the fire back. And there are times in marriages where that fire dies, and we don't know what to do to rekindle it. We don't know what we need to do in order to bring that fire, that spark back, that intimacy back. We don't know what to do, and we lose intimacy in the relationship. Now today, you're going to have to follow me today because I'm going to be, I'm not going to be long, but I want us to understand something. And I'm not just talking about a physical touch, because intimacy, it doesn't start with touching. Intimacy starts with talking. Because real intimacy is how you get in touch with that individual. And when you learn how to get in touch, then that's when the physical touch, it normally happens after you have got in touch with the individual, after you have caressed the heart, not the hand. So tonight we're going to talk about the loss of intimacy and how do we get to this point to where we lose intimacy. I'm talking about communication, because people in marriages have communication barriers where they no longer can communicate with one another, and this is where issues come. This is where problems arise. This is where separation and divorce come. You know, within the first marriage that we see in Genesis, you know, the Bible said that they were naked and they were not ashamed. They were naked and not ashamed. That just, and I'm using this as a reference, the word naked, which means they had nothing to hide. So they can be intimate because they knew how to get in touch with one another. As a matter of fact, when you look at Scripture, when God would bring Eve to Adam, Adam said, this is bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman. That was a form of intimacy. Before there was a touch, Adam learned to get in touch with his spouse by saying, recognizing her, acknowledging her, esteeming her. This is bone of my bone, and yet this is flesh of my flesh. Adam was not just excited, and I think that we have to get past the excitement stage. That once the excitement stage, that's great that you was excited, but what happened when the excitement left? How did your excitement, your passion, because excitement is nothing more than passion, when did your passion leave? The first letter in the word passion is pass. Pass, P-A-S-S. So how did this get past you, that your passion has left you and you no longer have the passion that you had from the beginning to get in touch before the physical touch? Okay. So let me say this. This is Covenant Keepers. This is Covenant Keepers. And this is Spirit Radio. But this is also the Vision Channel. So this is a three-part, three-triune thing. The Vision Channel, Spirit Radio, and this is Covenant Keepers. That is all entire. So I want you to hear me what I'm saying. The in touch lasts longer than the physical touch. The physical touch doesn't last long, but the in touch can last a lifetime. And I think one of the things that we have got past, or our passion is no longer there, where we are no longer dedicated to getting in touch, touching that individual's heart, communicating at the right place. So that thing is no longer a part of that relationship, and that's where the real intimacy is. The real intimacy is you and your spouse being on one accord. It's not the bedroom. It's not the boom boom room. And most people only fixate their focus on the boom boom room so people can boom boom but not still be in love with one another. They have lost their love for one another, and what they consider making love, it's not making love at all, and it's not intimacy, it's sex. So they've reduced the relationship down to sex and not intimacy. And this is where some marriages fall, and the intimacy leaves the relationship because they're doing it out of obligation. That the physical thing is they're doing it out of obligation. Okay, I'm obligated to do it. I know I must do it, but I'm not going to get any joy out of it because there's no passion that's in it. There's no joy that's in it because they're out of touch, because they can't get in touch with the individual, but yet they still want to touch. And this is what happens in relationships and in marriage, and we're going to talk about this because sometimes there's a disconnect. There's a disconnect with languages. The language of love and how we express ourselves. And one of the factors that we have and that we're going to talk about, one of the factors that we're going to talk about where intimacy depletes, or to where intimacy, it passes along the part about you getting in touch before the physical touch, is time. It's time. Many people that I've talked to that has issues within their marriage and they want to resolve these issues, many of those issues are there because of people's employment. People's employments. Because of time, because they have to work. So many people, and I know that people prepare for the future. They prepare for tomorrow. People are planners. And one of their main objectives is they plan for tomorrow. And it's a great thing to be a good steward of planning over tomorrow. Thank you, Jesus. And I think people are more fixated on planning for tomorrow, but whatever you sacrifice for tomorrow, you're going to miss out today. And if you rob time from today, then what are you bringing into your tomorrow? Because what you have sacrificed, if you rob time from today and try to prepare for tomorrow, then what are you leaving for today? You're allowing the enemy to come into your life today by planning for tomorrow, You prepared for that, but you missed out on this. And so this is one of the reasons and the avenues where the relationship and the marriage where people lose intimacy. They lose their luster for love because they've gotten out of touch. Now, I know that, and this is one of my challenges. How do you fall out of love? So that's going to be the first question I ask tonight. How do you fall out of love when you say you're in love? Hurt. Okay. Now, you got to explain this hurt part. Now, I can understand about an individual cheating. I got that. You know, you love the individual and the individual broke your heart. Now, that's a hurting feeling when somebody has stepped outside of the marriage, stepped outside of that relationship, and they've broken the trust that was there that you established. It may have taken 10 years to trust an individual, 5 years to trust an individual, to give an individual your whole heart. But in the midst of this individual, you've given this individual your whole heart, your whole heart, and they broke your heart. So I understand why intimacy leaves through the relationship being compromised. I understand that. So one of my first things, because God has called us to be stewards. And I think one of the challenges with us is when it's in reference to being a steward. Are we good stewards of times and seasons? Do we prepare for a season by what we do in time? We should be good stewards and what we do and what we prepare for time. We should be great stewards. And I think one of the first things that God gave Adam before he gave Adam a wife was the ability to function and be a great steward over what he's given him. So if you misappropriate time, time is something that you cannot get back yourself. Once you miss out on a moment, you miss out on that moment, and it will take God to reinforce, to reestablish, to reinsert, to redeem that time. So many people, they miss out on time in that relationship because they don't have time for today, but they have time to prepare for tomorrow. And some people never get tomorrow. Tomorrow never comes for them because they have canceled out the intimacy for today. So one of the first things you said is hurt. What else? What kind of hurt? What hurt are you in reference to? Because some people may be hurting right now. And some people may be hurting now, and they're saying, I want my heart to be healed, because there's no communication between us. Yes, the finances, we understand about finances, and some people say they gave this little phrase that where there is no finances, there is no romances, you know, and I can understand from that perspective. And then intimacy, it leaves that way. So let me say this, and I'm going to let her say what she has to say. I'm going to use this from a physical place. If you desire a child, it's going to take those two people to come together for one cause. And that one cause is to bring forth a seed where the woman have to develop the child. I'm almost getting excited. Because the man carries the seed. So a man carries the seed, but the woman is the ground that matures the seed. The woman is the ground that matures the seed. So the woman is the woman is the ground that matures the seed, that we know what's in the seed. So the seed manifests in the ground as a natural seed would go into the ground. But it takes the individual, a sower, to sow the seed. And the woman brings forth the seed so we can see what the seed is. The man doesn't know what the seed is. But the woman takes that seed, matures that seed, develops that seed, nurtures that seed, and that seed develops as a boy, a male, or a female, or it develops as twin because of that seed. So it's going to take both of us in order for that woman to become pregnant. Now, my question to us, is that relationship pregnant, or is it in turmoil? Because it's going to take both of them to come to a place to unify, to come together to bring forth intimacy. Not sex, intimacy. There must be unity. And I think in relationships, there's no unity. And if there's no unity, then division is there. The house is divided where there's no unity or where there's no intimacy. So my first question is, you use the word or the terminology or phrase that people are hurt. So how do we lose intimacy again?
Well, first of all, we use that intimacy through hurt, as I stated, and the hurt can come from abuse, physical abuse or emotional abuse, and some people are verbal abuse, yes. So some people are not able to push past it, and physical abuse is hard to push past. Oh, but he loves me, or she loves me, because it ain't always the men that's dishing out the abuse. It can be the female that's giving the abuse as well. So when people have issues with hurt, with the abuse, it can also be a part where infidelity. Infidelity can cause a huge issue with individuals and hurt. And it's hard sometimes for people to bounce back from infidelity. Because if, that spouse cheats on you, then after they cheat,
14.
then it's hard for them to come back and say, okay, yes, I can be with you, I can help you, or, get through the situation. It may be a little difficult for, that other spouse to push past that. For me, it probably will. It will be a lot for me to think about, So your spouse, the person that says they love you and you love them, and then there's a breach in their marriage. And what caused the breach is a question that has to be asked. And then why did that person act upon, the issue or whatever, or the situation? And sometimes that's hard to bounce back from. When you bounce back from it, it may not be, the same way. You still may view that person differently, even if you stay. But that hurt that is there is real. And it's hard to sometimes bounce back from it, and then it causes division and separation within the marriage.
And I mean, I can understand that. So because that's not intact, the vocal form of communication is not intact. Neither will the physical communication be intact. So my question is, how do we restore what has been broken? How do we restore what has been damaged?
There's only one way to restore the damage, and that's the bridge that got you to the point where you are, and that's Christ. Christ is the only way, the truth, and the light. And it's not just a cliche, but it's the truth. God is the only way that you'll be able to bounce back from that, and to truly love that person and not see their past, and not bring up their past every time that there is a disagreement. And it's like, oh, you did this to me, so I think you're going to do it again. I see this same pattern and you doing it again. You bringing up past situations, and here that person is just sitting there, watching TV. You watching TV, so I think you going, to be with this other person because you watching TV. There's no trust anymore with that person because they have not allowed God to heal them in that situation. Is it difficult? Absolutely. Will you possibly think that person is going to continue to do the same thing? Absolutely. But if it's ordained by God, then that glue is going to be not super glue. It's got to be glue. That's women know what got to be glue is. It's for the hair. So it's going to constantly, it's going to keep that relationship solid and it'll stick. But if you're working with Play-Doh, sometimes Play-Doh don't stick because of the connection that Play-Doh is, basically. But it's difficult. I can't walk away and say, oh, you can do it, and feel comfortable with saying, oh, you can do it. No, it's going to take work. Work on the person that did the mistrust, as well as work on the person that had been deceived. And will your bond be strong enough to endure it? Some people may say no. The Bible does say that, you can give a bill of divorce if there is some type of infidelity within the marriage. So that is a choice as well. Yet, if you choose, yes, I love you, yes, I'm going to stay, then if you're saying you're going to stay, then you got to fight. The person that did the situation, the infidelity, that person have to fight. And to gain trust within themselves as well as in their spouse. And then the person that has been cheated on it, they have to be strong as well. There's a fight within in them as well, not allowing the devil to manipulate them and thinking every time that spouse go to the grocery store or go get gas, you think they with somebody else, trying to get, other things except gas and groceries. So, it's a work and it's a battle. But if you choose to stay, then that means you're choosing to endure that battle. If you choose to leave, the person who was cheated on, you choose to leave, and you give that bill of divorce, then you walk away. And walk away not being bitter. Walk away with a sound mind and saying, well, God, this is what that individual did. I know you have something better for me. And it's truly a choice in that matter.
One of the challenges that I'm going to propose tonight, when we get married, can we define what love is? When we say we love someone, what is someone's definition of what love is? And I think this is one of the challenges that we have within relationships, because we don't understand what love really is from a biblical perspective. Because when an individual states that they love someone because they've never run into a problem. This is what love is initiated from. It's initiated, I love you because you're sensitive, you're nice, you're sweet, you carouse my ego. I love you because, you're the woman for me, you're the man for me. But that love only goes so far, and it's humanistic until a storm comes. And I'll tell anybody this. If people ask me, how is your relationship defined? It is not defined by what a person can give you. It's defined by what you can go through. I'll say it again. Love is not defined by what a person can give you, but what a person can go through with you. You never know the real identity of that relationship until a storm comes. Then that's when love is exposed. Can you love without limits? And I think sometimes we put a limitation on what we consider to be love. Now, I understand about infidelity, but we have natural problems, and people break down because of natural problems, and they lose the love, they lose that intimacy, they lose that communication, so there's no physical touch. Because there is no mental touch, there's nothing there to massage the person's mind, massage the individual's heart. So the physical touch, it never comes. Do you know what love is? Do you know what the biblical definition of what love is? Because some people get in this half-hearted. Okay, so let me say this. So one source of intimacy, leaving an individual, is their whole heart was never in it. Their whole heart was never in it because they got into the relationship where their heart was not in it. They didn't have their whole heart. They were not complete when they got in it. Somebody else had their heart. Somebody else had damaged their heart. Somebody else had already wounded their heart to the point to where they were functioning in a marriage wounded. But they had the mentality that they would win wounded with half a heart. They were never healed, so they got in the relationship, they got in the marriage under false pretenses, saying or thinking that that was going to solidify them having a whole heart, but the heart not being whole. Having a half a heart, but the heart itself not being whole, and that they were not complete because someone had broken their heart. So they got into marriage thinking that they would win, and they were still wounded. So this right here will start issues and problems in that relationship, and intimacy would eventually leave the marriage because they were infatuated. They were fascinated and infatuated by what a person done, but they didn't have the whole heart to go through a storm that both of them can go through. And so this caused them not to communicate because it reminded the person of who broke their heart before they started. So this is one of the reasons that intimacy will not last in that relationship, and the passion and the fire will die. If the fire dies, then the heart became cold. Okay, just think now. I know we had a winter storm a couple of years ago, and that winter storm, it knocked out all the power. So we had what we consider to be rolling blackouts. So with rolling blackouts, people didn't have water because water lines were busted. They didn't have central heat. They didn't have any power. So they were stuck in the dark and in the cold. So if you lose your fire, your passion, this is a rolling blackout. You lose power. And wherever you lose power, you lose the ability to come together. You lose the ability to heat up things. You lose that ability. You're in the dark. And the second that you lose your power, your heart goes cold. You lost the fire, so the heart now is cold. The heart, the Bible said, wax. The King James Version said, the heart is wax cold. That heart is cold, and there's nothing else to heat it up. There's no way you can rekindle that fire or that flame that was there. And intimacy, it leaks out of that relationship, and all of a sudden that relationship, it dies because there is no power, because you didn't know how to rekindle that thing when the power went out, when it was attacked. You lost power, so your flame left, your passion left, your desire left. Something left because you didn't understand the full definition of what love is. You know, I know Tina Turner sung a song, "What Does Love Have to Do with It?" According to my Bible, love has okay. My question to us tonight is, why do you get married and you know you don't love the individual? Why do you get married and you're not in love? Why do you get married when you don't even understand love? Why do you get married? And this is why marriages end in divorce, because people don't know what love really is. They don't understand the definition of what love is. Do you know that love is not about you? That Jesus would tell husbands, love your wife as Christ would love the church. That no matter what the church did to Jesus, he would tell the Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. He had love for the Father, and he had love for the church, which was his bride. That he would go through anything because of the love that he had for his Father and the love that he would have for his bride. And if you don't understand that when you get in a relationship or marriage, let me say this. Even if you're in that relationship and your spouse is not what you think that they are, or you're going through a difficult season, going to another person won't work. You only showed your immaturity because you didn't have the passion that Christ had. Yes, we watched a movie called The Passion of Christ, and that whole message was about suffering. Yes, if you don't have the gift of long suffering, please, this is what you need to ask God for long suffering. If you're talking about getting into marriage, if this marriage is going to last long, you're going to have to be gifted. You're going to have to be surrendered. You're going to have to be sacrificed, because love is sacrifice and surrendering. It's sacrificing. And if you don't know how to forgive, then don't get into marriage. Ephesians chapter 4 and verse 32 makes a statement. It said, and be kind one to another, tenderhearted, forgiving one another, even as God, for Christ's sake, hath forgiven you. Please hear me. It's saying, be kind one ye to another. Be tenderhearted, forgiving one another, as God has forgiven you for Christ's sake. If you do not understand this, your heart will wax cold. It won't be tender. It'll be stony. And many people, because they didn't get their way, see, and this is my thing, you're trying to get your way but not make a way. Yes, if you have the roadmap to that marriage, then that's what we call ourselves the heads. You should be the roadmap that a person can look at your lifestyle. Okay, now men, please forgive me. Well, this is, I want you to hear me. I think the challenge with us is you're trying to lead someone and you don't know where you're going. You're trying to get them to follow and you yourself is lost. If Christ is not leading you, then where are you going? And this right here could be a form and a loss of intimacy. It's a loss of intimacy. And we lose intimacy because women, some of them, desire for a man to lead. And if you're not in a position to lead, then why do you want to leave when every little thing comes up? We have to learn that before we get married, the foundation of what marriage is, the foundation of what love is, the foundation of what forgiveness is, the foundation of what intimacy is not touch, it's getting in touch. Can you get in touch before you physically touch? And we oftentimes are not prepared for storms. We're not prepared for all 4 seasons. We're only prepared for spring. We expect things to be fruitful and multiply. Now, I'm saying this, so if there's no in touch, then people struggle to touch. They struggle. So where did the intimacy leave? Okay, I'm going to say this and I'm going to let you say something. I think that the challenge with us is, how do you regain this intimacy back? If it's lost, how do you regain it? You know, one of the scriptures that came to me when the intimacy was lost was Mary and Martha, Jesus and Lazarus. Now, Lazarus was dead, but Jesus used the terminology, it was sleep. Lazarus is asleep. And Jesus waited 4 days. And Mary and Martha, when Jesus got there, they were frustrated. Had you been here, this would have never happened. Yes, we know that in the end that he will be resurrected. Jesus said, I am the resurrection. And I think that some people are on the verge of going into the place of divorce because they think their relationship is dead, and God is trying to tell you that tonight it's not dead, it's sleep. It just need to be awakened. And I think that tonight that it looks like the intimacy is dead in your relationship, but it needs to be awakened. But Jesus would ask Mary and Martha, he says, show me where you buried him. Where you buried him is where you lost your faith. You buried your faith. You put something on top of it. And in relationships, what I'm trying to tell you, this is where you got to be careful that you think that relationship is dead, but it's not dead. God is saying the intimacy, it just need to be awakened. All you need to do is call me. All you need to do is call me and show me where you have buried it. Show me what, in other words, where you buried it is where you gave up on it. Where you buried it is where you think that it's died. In a grave, if you put a casket in the ground, you have to cover it with dirt. So show me what you have put on top of what you buried. See, some people have put work on top of their marriage, and they buried their marriage because of their work. Now, I'm going to say this too. Now, some people may be mad at me with this. Some people have put church, bucking, shouting. You've put all of that on top of your marriage, and you buried it. Trying to be religiously correct. So he's saying, show me where you have buried it. Show me where you've buried. And many people in that relationship, when they have lost the intimacy, they buried it. And Jesus is saying, show me. Show me where you lost hope. Show me where you lost faith. And Jesus was saying, and this, don't you know that your marriage could be the roadmap or the model that God wanted to bring glory? So he used your marriage. He used your marriage to resurrect it. So everybody, the only reason why Jesus would allow Lazarus to go through what he went through, to go against religious people that day, because they said on the third day, if he dies, the spirit comes out of the body, but on the fourth day, for sure, he's dead. Jesus would do something, and I'm telling you today that some marriages are going to be resurrected. The intimacy that's in that relationship will be resurrected. I see God with a defibrillator. And he's laying it on the heart or the chest of an individual. Don't you know when these EMTs come, when they come with these defibrillators, the defibrillator is what they place on the chest. And I think sometimes they have to remove some of the clothing that's on the chest in order for them to get to the flesh. And I think that God's got to remove some of this stuff that you placed on your heart, that you are prohibiting God from reaching your heart. And the second they remove some of the clothing that's on the heart, they make sure that everybody is out of the vicinity before they say clear. Before they give that individual a charge to repump that heart back, they use the terminology clear. And what God is trying to do in this season is give you a charge so that everything will be clear. Your mind will be clear. Your heart will be clear. The marriage will be clear. God is trying to give you a charge with the spiritual defibrillator and place his hands on your chest, and everything that has troubled you must now be clear. So I know you have something to say, and I'm going to give it to you. You said, I know I said something that stimulated you. I saw your eyebrows.
So long ago. I should have wrote it down. But one thing I do want to say about relationships that are, the fire is going out, basically, is a surmise of what you're saying. If the fire is going out, where's your oil?
Oh.
What is the oil that will reignite that relationship? That oil has to come from somewhere. And where that oil will come from is that if you, the husband, and you, the wife, sacrifice yourself and allow God to pour that oil on your relationship. And that's the only way that it's going to be revived, if the mindset of each is open to receive Christ. Because obviously the person that went wayward or whatever the situation, it's always one that does something and the other one that don't do nothing, but it's both that did something, basically. But whatever the breakdown or the issue is that's in one, that person, of course, has to say, well, can you forgive me, or whatever the conversation that goes on. But that person has to learn how to surrender themselves to God. And then the person that was mistreated or whatever, however the situation you want to call it, they're going to have to learn how to surrender themselves to God, because their mind is always going to go back, what if? What if this happened again? What if? And then you got to get rid of the what ifs. You got to get rid of it's going to happen again, because you are prophetically putting it on your marriage. You are prophetically speaking it over your marriage. That word curse is going to keep coming out of your mouth. And it may not come out of your mouth, but it may come out of your head and your thoughts. That you're speaking prophetically over your relationship, that it's going to fail. You're basically saying it's going to fail, or it's going to fail tomorrow, it's going to fail whenever, because you know that it's going to come back. Since you know and you're speaking that over your marriage, then guess what? It's going to happen. And then the person that may have done something, they have to know how to surrender themselves to God and allow God to heal them. Because it had to be a reason why they did whatever they did. And in that reason, that's something that they have to submit to God and allow God to heal them in whatever that area is. And then allow God to help them to be a better spouse to that individual, and as well as talking to God about the situations besides going to another person for an answer. And it may not be that you was, had infidelity or whatever. It may be something totally different. However, you going outside of the marriage to try to find answers from mama, from big mama, from big daddy, to your homeboy down the street, to your homegirl down the street. You going everywhere else seeking wisdom, besides seeking wisdom from the Father. Seeking wisdom from the person that can heal and deliver the relationship and bring that glue back to your marriage and make everything new. You have to surrender yourself to Him and allow Him to heal you of that issue, to bring that bond back, to bring that oil back into your marriage so that fire can be reignited. That fire cannot go out. That fire has to constantly, how you in the camp and you put wood on the fire. You have to constantly put some wood on the fire, constantly, doing things to help build the relationship, spending time together, making time for each other, and not just making time for each other in the bedroom. Go somewhere, go eat lunch together, go eat dinner together, tell them on this day I'm gonna come to your job, we can have lunch together. Whatever it is, you have to learn how to be intimate with your spouse and not just intimately sexually. And that's where a lot of people fail. They think, oh, well, if we doing it right in the boom boom room, that we gonna keep going and doing everything right. No. That
you have to get to the boom boom room.
Right. That may be how y'all got together. You saw him, you met him, you weren't saved, so y'all was at the club, or you was at a jazz club, or you was at a restaurant that looked like a club, because that's what they have now. And y'all were attracted to one another physically, and then as the relationship progressed, you became physical, and then you said, okay, let's get married. So it's like there was no Christ in there. There was no Christ in the relationship, because number one, y'all found each other in some kind of club. Number two, you did the boom boom before you got married. Then number three, there was no true love.
Intimacy.
It was a bunch of lust.
Wow.
And the lust that y'all had was what brought y'all together. You never, got to know the person. What is your mother like? What is your father like? What is intimate details about your childhood? And people don't ask that anymore. What kind of person were you when you grew up? You don't ever know. This person may have shot 5 people as a 9-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
And, he couldn't go to jail, or she couldn't go to jail because they're a 9-year-old. Now they sending the parents to jail for what their children are doing or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
However, you don't know that because you're not asking questions. And that's part of intimacy, knowing that person, knowing who they are, and able to get to know everything about that individual. And then, are you worshiping together and you're not married? Are you reading the Bible together? Are you talking on the phone and talking about things of Christ to one another? Or are you talking on the phone doing extra stuff, saying sexual things, and then you
Sexing.
You're touching yourself inappropriately on the phone.
You're sexing.
Sexing.
Like they're texting,
Yeah,
sexing.
Yeah, right. So are you doing that, or are you talking about things of God? Are you giving life to your future spouse, or are you giving right now? Some people are like, this is the right now. I'm doing this right now, and it's fulfilling right now. But are you giving life? Are you looking at the future? Are you looking 10, 15, 20 years down the road? Are you seeing yourself with this person? Are you allowing God to help you see the good in the person, the bad in the person, and what the opportunity of improvement is for that person? And are you showing the love of Christ within you as a husband or as a wife? Are you showing that love even before you say I do? Are you showing and being that spouse before you're married? Are you showing anything that resembles Christ before you are married? And a lot of people don't do that. They're like, okay, we good together, you cute, I'm handsome, we wear cute clothes, we are perfect, quote unquote, couple, because on the outside, we're perfect. That's just like a potato, cooked potato. On the outside, it's all beautiful. There's no imperfections on it or whatever. Then the inside, it's just rotten. It's all black because it's old, it's dirt, it's useless. And that's how some people's relationship is. On the outside, it's beautiful. Everybody see you and say, oh, y'all the perfect couple. Y'all this, y'all that. Y'all dress alike. Y'all look alike. Y'all this and this. Then on the inside, as soon as they go home, they scratching each other's eyeballs out.
Mm-hmm.
They, saying words that are inappropriate. They doing things that are inappropriate because there's no true bond there. And that bond have to be Christ. That bond has to be untouchable by the world, meaning outside things, not allowing other people to interfere in your head with your relationship, because that's a problem. Mama telling you what to do, your sister telling you what to do, your cousin telling you what to do, how to be in a relationship. Then you look at their marriage, your mama been divorced 5 times. How you gonna tell me about a relationship when you can't keep a husband? How can you be that wisdom for me? And I'm looking at your track record. And, same thing with anybody else. Look at that person's track record. Is it a viable source? If it's not, then guess what? You need to take 10 steps back and walk away. People don't see it that way now. They just see whatever the outside appearance is and not what's on the inside. And that's what we have to think about. My outside may be horrible, but my inside is that we may wear purple and turquoise and it ain't matching. Purple and turquoise do go together, whatever colors that don't go well together, pink and green, you put those two colors together, it's like, ew, that is hideous, it's horrible.
Okay.
Colors that you put together, yet and still on the inside I have perfection, because we're covered by the blood of Jesus. Our colors on the outside may not be right. Our exterior, I may be 5'10" as the woman, and my husband is 4'9". So that it don't look right to the common man, but on the inside we're perfect. And that's what you have to look at in a relationship, and not basing a relationship on the external, and not basing a relationship on what is good. You got to make sure that you are perfect on the inside, and giving what your spouse needs, and then receiving what your spouse has given out as well.
Okay, let me say this, and I'm gonna say a couple of things. Could it be that your marriage is under attack? Could it be? Did the enemy? Okay, the Bible says in the book of Galatians that we should carry one another's burdens. Yes. We should carry one another's burdens. Could it be that you stopped carrying that person's burden and you made them one? Because the enemy gave you the wrong perception. When your perception will become your reality. So the enemy has made the reality of that relationship turmoil. He has made it, and you stop carrying that person's burden because you think that that individual is a burden because the enemy has given you the wrong perception, and now that perception has become your reality because you didn't understand warfare. And that has been the challenge in marriages, where intimacy, you have lost intimacy. You have lost it. You have lost that intimacy, please. And intimacy is like it's broke. That relationship is like it's broken. And you're trying to get out of something that you never did put back into it. One of the most profound statements that God gave me about marriage, he used a seed. He would bring me back to Adam, and he would explain to me, when it was in reference to Adam, that he would tell Adam that everything that's in this seed will produce after its own kind. And God would tell me that when it was in reference to relationships, how much have you sown into that relationship where you're coming to me and telling me you want to harvest? What have you given? What have you sown into this relationship to where the seed now will produce after its own kind? Because if God is the Lord of the harvest, what seed have you planted in your own marriage? I know the Bible talks about it and it gives a reference. It said, wives, submit to your own husband, because they submit in other areas. Men, love your wife. You love football more than you love your wife. You love basketball more than you love your wife. So you're using your love, you're misappropriating what God gave you to give to your spouse. You're using it in other areas. You're more in detail, you're more engrossed, and you have more details about football, about baseball, about soccer, about swimming. You're more engrossed in basketball, and you have all the details, but you won't tell from your wife. Okay. Yeah. You have all the details. You know, you got all the stats on every player. You have it all. And because you have it all for every player, but listen, you're missing out on the steps at home. How do you have LeBron James stats and you're calling him King James, and you're concerned more about King James and calling him the GOAT? Yes. But you haven't read your King James. You're watching LeBron James as King James, but you haven't read your King James to show what you must do when it's concerning your own marriage. Where are the stats? What are your stats in your marriage? How many titles have you won? How many? Let me tell you something. A trophy means you only become a champion after you won. After you've had some struggles, some challenges, after you've dealt with some type of opposition, this is the only way you become a champion. This is the only way that you get a trophy. My question to you tonight is, where's your trophy in your own marriage? Are you a champion in your own marriage? Have the intimacy died? And this is what I'm saying. Has it left? Let me tell you something. Let me tell you this. People, when you are a champion, they celebrate you. They'll celebrate you by you being a champion because they know that you are victorious. They know the hurdles that you had to climb. They know what you had to go through in order to become a champion. Now, are you more concerned about the people around you than the great cloud of witnesses that are watching you? In your own relationship, and this is what I'm trying to express to you today. I got it. Oh, this is what I'm trying to express to you today. Are you a champion in your own relationship? The revelation that God would give me about sowing seeds. I don't worry about the season, because once you sow the seed, another season will come. Winter will come. But the season is already in the ground. Have you sowed anything in your marriage in intimacy, not touch, but to get in touch, to where when winter comes, you're not concerned because the seeds that you sown are already in the ground. And that ground seals the seed even though it's hard. So you know that when it comes time for spring, that the seed that you've sown before winter, that thing is going to spring up after a hard season, and the intimacy will come back because God is the Lord of the harvest. Or will you be in famine because you've never sown the seeds? And many people are starving right now in their relationship because you've never sown the seed to pay attention. You've never sown the seed of love. You never cooked. You never cleaned. You've never done anything. You haven't been affectionate. You haven't. And our thing is, you expect somebody to do what you don't do. You take the seed. You sow the seed first. You sow it. If you want to see it, you sow it. And once you sow it, God will bring the increase. God will bring love that what we call. He'll bring the love that was depleted. Okay. If you get into a marriage as a dictator, that marriage won't last long. That marriage will never last long as a dictator, and you'll watch how quickly the intimacy loses that relationship. Yes. Okay. Now I'm going to say something. If you can be intimately, physically with a person, but if a person just wants you to finish, like, come on, let's just get this over with, how would you feel? How would you feel if that person was just saying, I'm just going to comply, okay, let's get it over with, don't take long, I'm giving you 5 minutes. How would you feel? You wouldn't feel, even though you wanted to be gratified, you still want union and intimacy in it. You still would want that person to participate in it, and the same passion and the joy that you have, you desire for that person to have the same passion and the joy you have in that intimate moment. But what happens if that person is saying, look, you only got 5 minutes, you only got 4, you only got 3, you only got 2 minutes, you better make it quick. If a person uses that terminology, then you've never got in touch with that individual. You just touched that individual physically. That person has lost their luster for love and intimacy. You ask the question, well, if this is the case, then how do we restore it? How do we restore the intimacy? One, you're going to have to take progressive steps. Progressive steps. Now, this is my challenge, because people get frustrated that messed up in their time. So now they want to put time constraints on the other person to say, well, I'm doing this, so it should change in your time, in my time. Now, it's not in your time. It's in the other individual's time. So you're going to have to learn how to deal with the person that you've hurt, that you've misappropriated, and you're going to have to give them time while you prove yourself in that time. Yeah, you got to prove yourself in that time while that person is still healing in time. And you can't get frustrated because you misappropriated the time that was afforded to you because you didn't sow the right seed in that time. I just can't believe that they would do me like this, and I've been doing everything that I can. But you messed up 4 years, and now you want things to go back in 4 minutes because all of a sudden you change your mind in 4 minutes in that time, but that person has suffered for 4 years in time. And now you're telling the person that you're going to change, but you've never changed for 4 years. But now all of a sudden you've done 2 things and thinking that's going to change everything. No, you have to give that person now time. And you have to be patient for that person to gather themselves together in that time. Yes. While you're frustrated in time, it shows that you have really not changed. You're still a dictator. So it's time. Give that individual their time. And in that time that person is healing, show that individual that you have changed. saying, you know, okay.
And now we just your lips.
I was just going to say that one of the acronym, but one of the sayings in my neighborhood, our colloquialism terms, we say, loose lips sink ships. Are you sinking the ship? Okay. What am I saying? The ship, the relationship. Are you sinking the relationship because you got loose lips and because you can't wait in their time after you messed up yours? Yes. Is your loose lips sinking the relationship? Yeah. Because you misappropriated time and you can't redeem it, you're going to have to wait. And wait, you wait for everything else. You wait for promotions. You wait for your income tax check. You wait for everything. You wait to clock out. You wait to clock in. You wait for everything. And because you wait, you should have the patience enough to wait. The Bible says love is patient, love is kind. Can you still function and operate in love by being patient and kind? Yes, love is patient. Love is kind. So if you are patient and you are kind, can you display that? Love is patient and love is kind. When you messed up your time, can now you display what love is? Or will you get frustrated and say, you tried everything? Yes, you tried everything except Jesus. And I think that's the challenge. You have tried everything. You tried to talk now. You tried to cuddle. You tried to cook. And these are great steps to taking these are great steps in taking in order to try to rekindle the fire. But in order to rekindle the fire, the first thing that has to happen, you have to go to fire. As you got to go to the fire to rekindle the fire. As Moses would go to the burning bush, that was fire, but that fire was God. Listen to me. When God came in that fire and talked to Moses, please hear me, that tree didn't burn out because of that fire. So that means if that tree didn't burn out, that tree couldn't die. Fire was supposed to kill the tree, but this type of fire, it kept the tree. Listen to me. If you rekindle your fire with Christ, then when this fire is on you, this fire wouldn't kill what's in you, what you're connected to. It wouldn't kill what's on you. This fire will solidify you. It will solidify the marriage, and that flame will be burning because it didn't go out. I think you said something earlier about the 5 foolish virgins. The 5 foolish, you talked about that oil, the lamps. Yeah, they ran out of oil. Could it be that the reason that this relationship is not right, it's not that they didn't have the kerosene. Because if you have oil represented kerosene, and the kerosene, which means that would give you the light. You had something to ignite it. Could it be that you are the kerosene? You have the kerosene lamp, but you don't have no oil, so you don't have nothing to ignite the fire. You don't have everything to ignite the fire. You need something. You need fire. You need to go back to the fire, which is Christ, and rekindle your fire. And whatever you touch as the pilot, as long as that pilot is lit, every other thing on that stove, on that aisle, would be lit because the pilot is lit. And God is trying to get you to rekindle your relationship with Him first, so that everything from this moment on would catch fire because you're on fire. It's rekindling and asking God for directions and instructions. When the Bible said, acknowledge me in all of your ways and I will direct your paths. He used paths with an S, not just one path. God said there are many ways to rekindle this, but you're going to have to acknowledge me in this. What do I need to do today? Acknowledge me in all of your ways, and it's me that shall direct your path. My question to you today, you're trying to do it on your own, but have you asked God, have you acknowledged Him in all your ways? Do me a favor, go to Psalms 37 and verse 4. I love this. Psalm 37 and verse 4. This is my challenge. In verse 3, it said, delight yourself in the Lord, and God will give you the desires of your heart. But verse 4 says something else. It said it's telling you in verse 3, delight yourself in God, and God will give you the desires of your heart. Oh, okay. Now, my question to us tonight, is, do you have a desire to rekindle your relationship? Is it a desire? Is it in your heart? Or do you just want to have sex? Yeah, is to rekindle the intimacy in the relationship like it was in the beginning. Not sex, but just the joy you being with that other person. The joy you talking to that other person. The joy just you conversing with that other person. Not sex, but the joy just with you and that individual had in the beginning of that relationship. Do you desire that joy back, or do you just desire sex? What does verse 4 say?
That's to delight thyself also in the Lord, and he shall give thee the desires of thy heart.
That's verse 4?
Mm-hmm.
What does verse 5 say? Commit thy
ways unto the Lord, trust also in him, and he shall bring it to
pass. Okay, now please hear this. Commit your ways unto God. Commit your way. That means you're surrendering and submitting the totality of your being, your heart, your mind, your soul, your ways, your actions, your patterns, your behavior. Commit all of this to me. God is saying, this is the moment and the hour. If you desire to rekindle this relationship, then commit your ways to me, your actions to me, your tongue to me, your mannerisms to me, your behavior to me. You commit your ways, yes, your ways to me. So shall your thoughts be established. But the thoughts can't be established if you just want to do the duty to get some booty. I guess it wasn't a pro. I said it. Yeah, you only doing stuff to get your way to have sex. That's it. Let me say this to you. If you start off by trying to correct an individual and telling the person how fine they are, and the first thing you want to do is touch, not talk, girl, you just fine. Or vice versa.
Give me a hug and a kiss.
Yeah. That girl, look, or you may be the man, or you may be the woman. Man, look at you. Honey, I never seen you. Like, look at that shirt you got on.
Look at them feet. What size
Shoes you wear, yeah. So if that's your communication, you only desire to do the duty. You do the duty because, okay, and this is Spirit Radio. You only was horny. Yes. You was just horny, and after you got your fix, then the relationship ain't fixed. It's not fixed. It's not fixed. You got your fix, but after you got your fix, the relationship was still not fixed. And God is trying to rekindle the flame. He's trying to ignite the passion that has been lost in that relationship so that the relationship can continue to set sail and won't sink. You ought to be tired of the same cycles. You ought to be tired of allowing the enemy to come into that relationship and defeat you. How many years are you going to neglect that person? Marriage is about servitude. If you're not willing to serve, then why are you in that marriage? Now, if I use one of the phrases that was in one of the movies, You Got Served. The dance, they did the break dance and then the pop locking and all that. You got served. Now, not meaning you got served, but somebody really dissed you. That's what it means. So people get into the relationship not to serve, but you got served. Somebody didn't dish you. Somebody then disappointed you. Somebody then outdid something to you. And servitude in that relationship, because marriage is all about servitude. You know the last 3 letters of the word marriage is what?
Age.
Yeah, aged. That word age means come to a place of maturity. Have you come to the place of maturity where you've aged? Or have you aged the person because of your immaturity? I'll say this again. In that relationship, the word age means you're mature. Have you come to that place where you have become mature and that relationship can thrive because you are mature? Or have you aged the person? You know when somebody, you can be with somebody like, man, they look like 50 miles of bad road. they have like, man, that, and man, I'm only 27. No, no, you're not. No, you're not 27. Let me see. You want to look at the person's ID? Somebody lying, and that's a fake ID. You thinking it's a fake ID, but the person has had a hard life because they have aged. They look like they're 57 and not 27. Is the person that you're connected to looking older than what they should do because they're connected to you? Have they aged because of worry, because of tiredness, because of frustration, because they have been depressed? Have you aged somebody because you were immature and you have not aged? This is where a loss of intimacy is established. And to rekindle it, you're going to have to go back to fire to ignite your own fire and surrender and submit yourself and delight yourself in God and acknowledge him in all of his ways. Acknowledge him in all of your ways, and he's going to direct every path, every step. The steps of a good man are ordered. Could it be that you're no longer good and you're trying to step? Could it be that you're not a good woman and you're trying to step? Could it be that you're trying to organize chaos that you created and you're not a good organizer? You're trying to organize what you created. Listen, I pray that something was said today that will help you rekindle. If you are the initiator of chaos, I pray that you will get God to organize your chaos. And you would begin to delight yourself back in him and allow him to give you the progressive steps in order for you to move forward so that that relationship can move forward. Listen, I pray that something was said tonight that challenged you, but that enhanced you, but that gave you steps that you can take in order to move forward. And we'll see you next week on Covenant Keepers.
Hi, everyone. I'd like to personally thank you for participating in our online broadcast at Deliverance Temple House of Refuge. We pray that you enjoyed the message. If you're not part of our online family, please subscribe to our channel and never miss one of our life-changing and uplifting broadcasts. If you are in the Pearland area on Sunday, join us at one of our powerful worship services at 8 a.m., 10 a.m., or 12 p.m., or on Friday at 7 p.m. We look forward to serving you, your family, and friends. If you happen to miss one of our messages, you can find them on one of our platforms: Facebook, YouTube, Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, and Apple TV. We truly appreciate you investing your time with us.